Hello everyone. I am wanting to read the Magdalene Manuscript. I have a hard time reading books since my concussion in 2019, and so I like audiobooks, but there is not an audiobook for this book that I can find. I did find somebody that was doing a book reading on YouTube, but she was adding a lot of other commentary, which was interesting, but I really wanted just to hear the book. So y'all can read it with me. All right. So the Magdalene Manuscript is actually channeled by Tom Kenyon and Judy Sion. So I will let you all make your determinations about channeled readings. This is something I am interested in reading. If you want to read it with me, read along with me. I am not really here to debate about it. I'm not here to give you a bunch of my own commentary, although maybe once I've read through it, I'll go on live and we can do that. But I really just want to read the book and to have some accountability on reading it with you all. Okay? So, the very beginning of the book. Invocation to the Cosmic Mother. O great Mother, divine feminine, birther of the cosmos, lover unto spirit, creatrix of all matter and queen of all worlds within worlds and those without, we call you to us in this hour. We are your children, hear our call. We are the daughters and sons of your divine union, the flesh of your passion for life. You who lay with spirit, our Father in the beginning of time, and brought us forth from the blessed union of spirit and matter. We are your children, the sons and daughters of your flesh and your heart, and we remember your touch and the fragrance of your essence, and we long for you. Come to our hearts and gift us the remembering. Come to our minds and open our genius. Enlighten us with your presence. Draw back the veils that we might see and hearken the doors to open, that beauty and ecstasy may live in our homes and hearts more fully. This is our hour of greatest need. We call you through fire and water, through earth and wind, through all that bears your name. We call all your lineages and all your names. Come unto us, come into us, so be it. Channeled by Judy Sion. Tom's introduction to the Magdalene Manuscript. Personally, I have tremendous challenges with this manuscript. For one, it is channeled, and I thought that I had left that kind of writing behind me after I finished the Hathor material. For me, channeling is a questionable activity. It reminds me of the scene nets people cast into the waterways of the Camargue in southern France, an area believed by many to be where Magdalene came ashore. Along the banks, large nets sit in the river. Occasionally, someone cranks a hoist and pulls the net out of the water to see what got caught. I think channeling is a lot like this. There are currents within our psyches. They carry a hodgepodge of things, some of them interesting, some of them worthless, and some of them downright strange. Sometimes the channeling net catches something of unquestionable value, but often it is mixed with a bunch of junk. My first experience with channeling was in the late 70s. A friend of mine happened to be a medical researcher at Duke University, and we conducted a series of informal experiments on the phenomenon. Since I worked with hypnosis in my psychotherapy practice, we decided to see what might emerge from hypnotic states in relation to channeled material. The very first evening, we made contact with an immense intelligence that we euphemistically called Big Dude. I have quite an irreverent streak, and anyone who knows me will attest to this. Big Dude spoke in a characteristically grand style typical of channeled entities or intelligences. It spoke about possible changes to Earth, and it spoke about the interconnectedness of the universe. While the transcripts of the talks were intriguing, both my friend and I agreed that there was nothing of real substance, and after 3 months of meeting once every 2 weeks or so, we dropped the experiment. As a psychotherapist working in the areas of transpersonal psychology for many years, I have seen a lot of clients who channeled. Some of them were quite comfortable with it. Some were quite disturbed by it, like the woman in her late 40s who was awakened at 3 every morning for the last year. She would sit, pen in hand, and scribble out messages from the other side. The other side of what is the question. Her transcriptions talked about the power of love to heal. Sometimes they offered some decent solutions to problems. Sometimes, quite frankly, they said some very strange things. Strange is, of course, a relative term. What is strange to one person may seem quite reasonable to another. The cultural filters we use to sieve our experiences are often arbitrary and based on inherited nonsense. My task as a psychotherapist was to help my channeling clients make sense out of the transpersonal babble. I use these words on purpose. The collective unconscious is filled with all sorts of things. The psychological entities that reside there are varied, like the characters in real life. Some of these denizens from the collectives are brilliant and well-intentioned. Some of them are idiots masquerading as spiritual beings. There is a tremendous increase in channeling among both laypersons and professionals alike. I think it is just a sign that as a collective we are beginning to gain access to our psychological and spiritual depths. Many people are having spiritual emergencies in which their views of the world are quickly and radically altered by peak spiritual experiences. I believe that we will be seeing even more of these psycho-spiritual crises over the next several decades as the new mythos within our collective mind begins to surface. Channeling within this context is nothing more than a message from the deep. But like the summer fishing holes of my youth, some of the things down there are not worth fishing for, but still they come to the surface of the mind, like an old shoe or rusted beer can. One of the tasks for anyone faced with channeling is to separate the valuable from the inane, the uplifting from the dangerous, and just because the information is coming from the other side should not imbue it with any more authority than the words from someone down the street. In fact, when someone hands me something and tells me that it has been channeled, my guard goes up. And when a being from the other world shows up on my doorstep, so to speak, I look for logical inconsistencies. I lay traps. If they pass these tests, I am more likely to consider what they are telling me, but I am the final judge. If what they say does not make sense to me, I dismiss it. And so, in the midst of my immense resistance to the channeling phenomena, Magdalene showed up one night in Zurich, Switzerland. My partner, Judy, had asked me to see if I could get anything about the Magdalene, since we were shortly going to be in Saint Maurice de la Mer, the site where Magdalene supposedly landed after the crucifixion. I closed my eyes and entered a light hypnotic trance. Immediately, a being appeared in my mind's eye and announced that she was the Magdalene herself. She began to dictate the manuscript you now hold in your hands. Over many sessions, she spoke with an undeniable clarity and urgency. Every word was precise, and the feeling in the room during these sessions was electric. Now, several months later, as I look at the manuscript with a critical eye, I am struck by several things. The first is a personal dread at adding to the glut of channeled books, but that's the last thing any of us need, I tell myself. But the material is like nothing I have ever seen. As a student of internal alchemies for over 3 decades, I have been fascinated by the similarities as well as the differences between the world's alchemical traditions. And I have made it one of my personal quests to experience a vast array of alchemical methods for transforming and elevating consciousness. From this perspective, the techniques offered by the Magdalene are quite extraordinary. As a spiritual pragmatist, I have always tried everything myself. If it works, I keep it. If it doesn't, I toss it out. I have personally used the techniques Magdalene describes, and they work. They work extraordinarily well. In fact, I can honestly say that practicing them has enhanced all of my other alchemical practices, regardless of the lineage from which they come. All of this led me to one final logical conclusion. For those fellow students of alchemy, for those seeking deeper experiences of spiritual transformation, and for those who desire sacred relationship, this material may well prove invaluable. For this reason, I have decided to release the manuscript. There are still some problems for me. I am a stickler for accuracy, and there is no way to verify if the story is true or not. There are so many versions of the Magdalene legend, and it happened so long ago. I suspect we will never know for sure, at least from an objective point of view. I found the story Magdalene painted during the sessions extremely evocative. Parts of it I still do. However, the bulk of the story is, to me, just another story. Could be true, could be false. As a person firmly anchored, some would say marooned, on the shores of logic, I can't say whether the story is true or not, and this disturbs me. But I can say that the methods she shares and the insights she offers are extraordinary. And so for me, as I sorted through the manuscript, I put the story back in the river and kept the methods. I ask you to do the same. Read this with your own heart and mind. Keep what is of value for you and leave the rest. I realize that this book may very well be controversial in many circles. Still, I think it right to release this manuscript into the world. If it does nothing more than get us to question the various issues it brings up, then I think the book's existence will be justified. It is, after all, a time for all of Christendom to question its misappropriation of the feminine. For those seeking a deeper understanding of internal alchemy as it means to transform consciousness, I believe the material unquestionably stands on its own. During my rereading of the manuscript, a funny thing happened. So get this. Here I was looking at the material with a rational and critical mind. As I considered whether to publish it or not, Isis appears to me. Yes, Isis. She asked me to finish the book as soon as possible. What's a guy to do? The island of Paros, the Cyclades, Greece, August 2001. That is the intro, and I'm going to read more later. I have some things that I need to get to, but let me know how you all liked this, and if you're interested in hearing more. Even if you are not interested in hearing more, I'm going to keep doing more. I love you all.